Two divers descended into the watery gloom of a submerged prison in northeastern Europe, and as they dove deeper, they could see the outline of dark shapes looming in the murk. Drawing closer, they made out the walls of ruined buildings. The pair had, in fact, found the remnants of a place that deserves to be washed away and forgotten. Then they swam inside. Latvia-based husband and wife team Jacobs and Alina Andrusiadis are the creators of Reverie Chaser, a blog dedicated to their global travels, which have taken them to almost a quarter of the world's countries. The online travelogue was founded 4 years ago after the duo won a story competition in National Geographic Latvia magazine, and it features videos and pictures taken by Jacobs and writing by Alina. The couple traveled to a flooded prison in Estonia in 2016. In order to document its ruins for Reverie Chaser, they went on 3 separate dives. Although the trip was not entirely safe or lawful, they were able to capture some striking images. Not only do the pictures portray the eeriness of abandonment, they also capture a sense of the site's sinister history. Bordered by Latvia at its southern point and Russia at its eastern, Estonia is a small country in northern Europe. In fact, its national territory covers just 17,462 square miles, an area around twice the size of New Jersey in America. Nonetheless, with almost a fifth of its landmass designated as protected areas, the country boasts some spectacular natural scenery. Ethnically, Estonia is more closely related to Finland. Historically, however, Estonia has been strongly influenced by Russia, and this is mostly because back in the 1940s, the country was seized and annexed by the then Soviet Union. The occupying power's first act of terror was to arrest 8,000 politicians and military personnel. Over a quarter of those detainees were killed, while the rest were sent to labor camps. For the next 5 decades, Estonia was a Soviet satellite. The site visited by Jacobs and Alina is located in Ramu, roughly 25 miles from the Estonia's capital, Tallinn. The ruins consisted of 2 groups of dilapidated structures, industrial and corrective, which were set up in the 1930s. And they include the Ramu Quarry, which is an open-pit limestone mine, as well as 2 nearby jail complexes. Under Soviet control, the prison supplied a convenient source of slave labor for the regime. Convicts worked in the quarry, and human rights violations were reportedly commonplace, as were accidental deaths. In fact, conditions in the prison were allegedly so poor that the inmates undertook a hunger strike, a dangerous proposition under the authoritarian USSR. When the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, the Soviet-era Iron Curtain rolled back. As a result, Estonia became a free and independent nation within 2 years, and with the collapse of the Soviet Union's control over the country in 1991, the quarry was abandoned. Meanwhile, the 2 prisons on the site merged briefly before closing for good in 2012. Ruin and dilapidation of the buildings ensued. The quarry, which had previously required regular pumping to prevent flooding, groundwater rapidly took over. Before long, a large lake inundated the area, swallowing equipment, buildings, and even wood. Today, above the surface, only a handful of structures, along with an enormous slag heap, hint at the site's former use. In fact, what was once a place of oppression has become a thing of beauty. A beach overlooks inviting waters and is popular with tourists and swimmers. Estonia's National Tourist Board is even promoting the quarry's 230-foot-high slag heap as a walking attraction. The hike in the fresh air is enjoyable and engaging, reads their website. Indeed, Alina described Ramu as a popular local attraction. When you walk inside, you'll see dozens of people enjoying themselves on the beach, grilling sausages, swimming, listening to music, and smoking shisha, she wrote on Reverie Chaser. There are plenty of Lithuanians, Latvians, and locals here. You might think this is a city beach, just all the rundown buildings and the no swimming sign might make you suspicious. Of course, under the water, Ramu takes on a very different character. On their initial descent, Alina and Jacobs encountered submerged lampposts, concrete slabs, and entire buildings in the gloom. Before long, however, swimmers jumping into the water interrupted their dive. Only half joking, our dive master says that sometimes people jump right to the places where they see the bubbles coming up, on top of divers, wrote Alina. In fact, jumping off the buildings into the lake is an extremely dangerous and potentially life-threatening activity. Hidden below the surface of the water are a host of deadly obstacles, including rebar, razor wire, and rusty machinery. Hitting or missing those objects is a matter of blind chance. Indeed, several visitors to Ramu have injured themselves, including a 17-year-old girl. The teenager received injuries to her back after leaping into the lake from a ruined building in 2014. There have even been deaths too. In July of 2016 came the sad news of the discovery of a man's body in the quarry. He was 35 years old and had apparently drowned. On their second dive, Alina and Jacobs navigated an underwater forest. Unfortunately, visibility was poor at about 16 feet, and this meant that the couple were unable to see much aside from the yellow flippers of the divers. Winter, it seems, is a better time to visit. According to Alina, visibility in these months can reach a crystal clear 130 feet. Meanwhile, the pair did sustain some minor injuries. The trees are grown over with algae, so seem soft, but may have clams growing over and you can get cut, wrote Alina. We tested ourselves and it bleeds nastily underwater. There are abandoned objects underwater, tires, pots, and other things. After breaking for lunch, Alina and Jacobs completed a third dive on the other side of the quarry. While there, they saw some submerged properties which were too dilapidated to enter. The depth of the quarry, noted Alina, does not exceed 43 feet. Most of their dive took place in the range of around 20 to 30 feet down. Meanwhile, a number of visual artists have made use of Ramu's spooky look. Indeed, in 2015, it featured in a movie short by Einar Kusk called The Most Beautiful Day. The flick is an apocalyptic fantasy adventure which draws on Soviet-era themes. In addition, the location also featured in the music video to accompany the 2015 track Faded by Alan Walker. Ramu's future is uncertain, but architecture structure from the Estonian Academy of Arts, EKA, began debating possible uses for the place in 2015. 2 years later, it was announced that the site would be converted into a technology park. However, the idea does not seem to have progressed past the planning phase. Finally, the site is privately owned and therefore visiting is actually trespassing. However, there don't appear to be any signs around forbidding entry, only swimming. Would it be right to visit? Asks Alina. The owners are starting to introduce measures to limit who can enter, she says. It seems that if you want to see the place, you should do it as soon as possible.